Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here today for the very first time to talk the news of the past 24 hours from the world of professional wrestling. It's our good friend, TK Trinidad. TK, welcome to
Hey,
the Daily.
hey.
Hey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. We got a lot to get to here today. Obviously, there was a lot of big breaking news in the past 24 hours. If you're listening to us in audio form, after you hear us talk the news, you're going to hear the full audio from Dante Martin's AEW Full Gear Media Scrum. And then at the end of the show, for everybody, we're going to dive on in to the mailbag, and we're going to take a look at these WWE releases, the most recent ones, who you'd like to see maybe over in AEW, but we'll get to that later. We'll do it now. News you can use, news that'll leave a bruise. TK, 8
Yes.
more WWE talents have left the roster. Hear me? Oh, I have the run sheet pulled up from yesterday. That's terrible. No, we have John Morrison. We have John Morrison. We have Hit Row Records, Top Dollar, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Ashanti the Adonis, Tegan Knox, Drake Maverick, Shane Thorne, and Jackson Riker. We reported that exclusively over at the site. At the same time, a lot of people other kind of found out as well. And these cuts were described as budgetary. We'll start there, TK. What do you think about this latest round of WWE releases?
It's kind of one of those because I've worked for some pretty big companies as well, and I got let go at a real crazy time. Like one company let me go literally 2 days before my birthday, and it's kind of one of those things that they really can't tell you like what the reasons are, because you're gonna it's just kind of awkward.
Right.
Even though you want to know the reason, and then it's kind of like breaking up from a bad relationship. You're like, well, what is the reason? And you just kind of have to let it go.
Sure.
It's like, I'm never gonna know the reason. I don't know what they're saying in the boardroom about me. And then sometimes with WWE, which I've been saying for a long time, sometimes they just don't have storylines. Not that means that they should be fired, but you don't have storylines. And then also coming from a business perspective, because I do run my own business, you have to make the numbers work. So if you have somebody who doesn't necessarily have a storyline and you're paying them X amount of dollars, but you don't foresee them having a storyline anytime soon, then it's just kind of like, you have to line it up. It is very, can I swear? I don't know if I can.
I mean, we don't try to be, the dirty
Outlandish.
show. If it's
Okay.
necessary, that's fine. I'm not going to
Okay.
stop you, TK.
It is kind of shitty that you fire them right before Thanksgiving going into a holiday, because they had that 30 days, so that puts them into next year. It's not like they can just, like, I can go and do some promotions, I can go and pick up some stuff before the end of the year. So it's just kind of like, and yeah, the WWE is going to pay them out for the 30 days, but it's not a good feeling going into something major, like the holidays. Like, this is, everybody's trying to wind down, and now you put this extra stuff like mental health and all that stuff. It's just not. The timing was. I mean, I don't think is there ever a great time to break up or fire somebody? I don't know. Never
No,
on a Friday for sure.
I think you said a lot of the right things, right? Yeah, I mean, people very upset right now, and you talk about the mental health, TK. Like, Moppy here. We'll bring up our first comment. If you want to comment wherever you're at, wherever you're watching, sometimes we'll bring your comments up. Moppy here saying, I don't know why anyone would want to sign with WWE anymore. There is a lot of money there, but people come out of that place different, right? It's like a mental mess up factory. Like, you go in one way and you come out the other side, and it's so consistent. It's wild. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of it's crazy because thankfully now in the era that we're in now, there's a lot more promotions, and there are a lot of people just making, they're making their living doing, traveling and doing the indie circuit. Like, I mean, I'm not in everybody's house. I don't know what their paycheck looks like, but they look like they're fine on social media. It's not like they're hurting for money, and they're making it work. And I don't think WWE is the end all be all, but at one point, you still can't take away that shine. It's just kind of like if you want to work for a shoe company. I mean, I personally would think Nike, but Nike's a terrible company to work for, like, allegedly. But, it's just like all those, you think of a phone company, you're going to think of Apple, but there's so many bad things that you've heard from Apple as well. So it's one of those things that you want to get there because very few people get there because everybody's applying, but then, you realize that it's not, not everybody's going to experience the I guess of late the Bianca Belair,
Few
treatment.
few and far between. It's like her and Riddle are the only ones that kind of made the leap from NXT to the main roster, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and like, from the business side of it too, I think there's more to it on that side of it. Like I've heard a lot of different takes on why things are happening, creative and whatever. Vaccine, okay, I get that. But like I think it really just comes down to the fact that AEW came in.
Mm-hmm.
WWE's like gut reaction was, well, we got to restructure these deals. We don't want to lose talent to AEW, so they
Right.
restructured these deals. They paid people more money. Then when they got into the weeds of it, they, I think, at a certain point realized, like, well, wait, if we just flood the market, right? They can't hire everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at a certain point, we'll know, you know, who did get picked up or whatever. But then you're going to have this large pool of talent that is back to just needing a place to go, and you could go back to the table with a Blake Christian or I guess I don't know about Morrison. We'll get to what his wife said here in a second, but you could go back to, or maybe a Swerve Scott and say, hey, maybe if you are looking for it, you can come back, but we're not going to pay you what you did. And I think we're going to hear a
Mm.
refrain of that.
Okay.
I think we're going to hear a refrain of that in the next year or so, because I think it's inevitable that, I mean, with this many talents let go, some of them will come back, and I think they'll be in a lesser negotiating situation, when that comes around.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's just kind of one of those things where even before, I think when AEW made their announcement that they were going to do like weekly, that's when like I've noticed more on the women's side, but that like everybody was getting swooped up and getting the treatment, getting into WWE, but then they weren't using them. It was just kind of like you could take Chelsea Green for instance, and yes, she only had 2 matches, and yes, she was injured part of the time, but there's a huge part before her first injury that you never saw her, and it's just like, but we all know she's talented. Like you now see she's in every other promotion right now. You see her everywhere. So it's not like she just picked up the skill. She had the skill before she was signed to WWE. So it's one of those things where you I don't know, is it like a kid who wants all the toys and they realize that they only can play with a couple of them? I don't know what it is, but it's weird.
I think it's savage capitalism, TK. I think it's seeing an opportunity to devalue a lot of people real quickly instead of trying to play that game of, outbidding their opponent. And, that's just, maybe my take on it. But it seems to me like there's a lot of people that are going to be in a very precarious negotiating situation if they want to go back and try to make real money in one of the big two after all these releases. So you brought up the storyline stuff too earlier. I think the real head scratcher here, Hit Row, right? First B-Fab, now the rest of them. Everybody's like, what happened here? The Observer saying there have been rumblings of Top Dollar having heat while Hit Row was still in NXT. The NXT heat was due to Francis rubbing a ton of people the wrong way while he was there. It was also said that Francis was getting the same reputation since being called up to SmackDown. Vince saw Francis as the star of Hit Row due to his size, and it was speculated that once WWE decided to get rid of Francis, Scott and Adonis were then likely caught in the crossfire. Wow.
I don't know about that.
I've never seen something so spectacularly implode so quickly like Hit Row Records. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know that because it seemed like Swerve had some heat before even Hit Row. Like they were talking about him before that. I don't know. I've notoriously said on a lot of different stuff that WWE doesn't care about our feelings. They all this speculation, they're still trending. All this stuff that's coming up, and they're even for all the promotions and all the indies to go in North America. There's only so many to go to. So I do agree with you that some people are going to be re-signed. You take Eva Marie, who just got let go again, but I think I honestly think for her, she's just kind of been up and down with it. It's just like, oh, okay, well, I had some money and I had some extra cash, and now I just don't have some extra cash. Like I don't think it hit her as hard. I'm not speaking for her, but I'm just putting it out there. But then why sign her? It's just kind of one of those, like, why bring her on for? It was less than a year, like a couple months.
I feel like they set her up to fail almost instantly, because like the moment they paired her with Dewdrop and like
No
if you
sense.
remember, like the first week that they did the Dewdrop Eva Marie pairing, there was like an immediate blowback to like, you're going to do a pretty girl shames the big girl angle. Like, what? How? This is awful. And from that
Mm-hmm.
point on, it was just I think 2 months until Dewdrop had beat Eva Marie 3 times, and then was on to a new thing and was pushed as a big deal babyface. Well, now she's a heel, I guess, but
Mm-hmm.
they doubled down on Dewdrop, and by their own for their own booking, just they distanced themselves from Eva. I felt bad for her in that situation.
Yeah, but like, who really runs the show? Like, for everything that we talk about on social media, and everything that we want, because I'm sure you're on Twitter while the shows are going on, and yeah, I mean, obviously you are, because you're the news. But it's just kind of like they still do things that they do a lot more. I would say they do 75% of the stuff we don't want, and then they might throw us a few breadcrumbs. Like, I feel sometimes we're also in a bad relationship with WWE. It's like we keep coming back. We still pay for the pay-per-views. We still watch the pay-per-views. We say this is crap, but then next week on Friday or Monday or whenever, we still watch it. And I'm not by no means am I saying boycott WWE. You do whatever you want, but it's just kind of like, maybe we like complaining, and they like the fact that we are complaining, because then they're trending. Like, any news is good news. I don't know. It's a weird scenario, because even when Eva Marie left the first time, I mean, let's be honest, like, she wasn't that good then. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
what was the reasoning?
They thought that, I think they thought that their idea about the Eva Dewdrop pairing was good, and then when they rolled it out, realized this is not good, and they had to figure out she was a victim of their booking, right? Like, they set her up to fail, and when it didn't work, had nothing for her. And like, that's why I feel bad for her, right? And while
Yeah.
you're not calling for a boycott, TK, somebody else is, and that's Taya Valkyrie. Now, I said earlier we try not to be the dirty show. You said shitty. That's fine. I'm going to use a heavier word because Taya wrote it, so I'll read it. Taya tweeted, "Yo, fuck them. Stop supporting a company that has zero respect for their talent. You love pro wrestling. Spend your money on the hundreds of other alternatives. This is wrong. Ethically, as employers, they don't care about us, talent, or fans." That's that's a pretty indicting statement right there, TK.
Well, I mean, yes. I think today she did tweet, and she also posted a Instagram post with her and her husband John. And I
Right.
get it. Like, how are you going to, like, it's already, when you get fired from a job that you've been wanting, or from a company that you've been wanting to work for a long period of time, especially since your husband's there. Your husband gets signed there. He's there for what, about a year or something. It's just like, well, they know I'm married to him. She's been backstage WWE, stuff like that. She's a wrestler. Like, it's not to say she just started. So especially when you wanted to work there for so long, and then you finally get there, and then the push she got for NXT was like, the dog even got a push. Like, the push she got for NXT, most people don't get. Like, I honestly thought, like, I wasn't a fan of the name, then I got on board with the name. I honestly thought she was on the trajectory to be, not necessarily like Bianca Belair, but in that kind of frame where she's gonna be there for a while, and then she's gonna move out to main roster quite quickly. That's what I thought. So it's just kind of like, and if you're seeing that, like, if you're seeing a company give you, like, show you that much love compared to other folks who are signed, you're thinking, I'm gonna be here for a while. I can set up my closet, set up my desk, put the pictures up, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you get released. That's bad enough. And then 4 weeks later, your husband gets released from the same company right before Thanksgiving. Like, it's just like, you're going to be upset. So I understand that tweet.
I totally get it too. And I think what we're seeing right now, as I kind of listen to you and I'm reflecting on what's going on, like, we're really seeing like an earthquake, in the world of WWE, because what you're describing with Frankie or Taya and the push she got early in NXT was very much like one of the last real Hunter pushes, right? One of the last people who really, like, Hunter is like, I like experienced, quality talent that I could, is in the mold of Cross and all that. I want a Taya Valkyrie here. She's obviously a draw. She's obviously a good worker. I can use her, right?
Hmm.
Hunter goes down. Coincidentally, at the same time, they decide to do this 2.0 relaunch, is removed from the equation here for a little while. And while the sheep are away, the wolves will play or whatever. Vince comes in with Bruce Pritchard and says, "We got to do this. What are you kids doing here? This is ridiculous." And I think with Taya, there was that report. I don't. It's either Observer or PWI. You can go find it. I don't know the source, the exact moment, but the initiative about um, Vince looking for women 25 and younger, men 30 and younger,
Hmm.
women 25 and younger. And you brought up top. You don't want to say why you let people go, because I think if they told her the truth is we don't know how long we're going to be able to keep you around, that would probably create a whole lot of issues. But I think there's probably
And
some
she
truth.
can sue them. You
Yeah,
could definitely, yeah,
well,
that
she's an
part.
independent contractor, so I don't know if her rights are the same as an employee in that situation. But it
Yeah, but
certainly
if
would
you
be a good.
tell,
Yeah, certainly would be good. Yeah.
yeah, but if you tell somebody the reason we're no longer employing you, even if you're a contractor, is because of your age, I think across the board, whether you're a contractor or not, you could still sue them because therefore, you're not being, even though you're qualified and she can pull up, all the receipts for that, like, so let me get this straight. Because I am not under 25, but you already hired me, like you're firing me. Like they can't tell the truth for that. So it is sad. I think one of her other tweets before, like, I think a couple days after she got let go, was like, I wish my friends would have really told me how WWE really was. Like, she had a couple of like big tweets out there, and at this point, it's not I mean, her and Chelsea Green, like, I don't foresee Taya not working after the 30 days are up. Like, after 30 days were up for Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green is everywhere. And I foresee the same thing for Taya as well.
Well, and with Taya, she's not part of this class, so I'm not going to talk about her in the mailbag. This class of releases, I talk about them like the new class of performance hires. There's hiring classes and release classes now. Which class were you part of?
Man.
Who'd you get released with? Anyway, like I want Taya in AEW. I know everybody can't go to AEW, but Britt Baker needs dancing partners right now that can tell
Hmm.
stories and help build that women's division. There are great women in AEW, but I don't know that there's many that have the experience to tell big stories in a meaningful way on TV. And Taya brings that to the table. I think she would be a great fit there, and I know she'll be very successful at AAA. That's a no-brainer.
I agree with you. However, AEW is not giving women enough of a platform to tell those stories. So it's
Right.
like only a few people are getting to tell the stories, and then you throw a couple people here and there, and you already know who they're building up, which is fine. That's the business. You only have so much time, but it's just like you can't really say that. And you know who corrected me on that? It was Medusa. You can't really say that unless you give everybody a fair shake to prove themselves to tell the story. Because if you get those chances, and little more than one, because the guys get more than one. If you get those chances and you fail miserably, then you're like, okay, this person's not a good storyteller. Move on to the next one. But I honestly think, and I'm not a wrestler, but I think that anybody who's wrestling, you have to be great on the mic, and you have to be able to tell a good story. You also have to be able to wrestle. But like, you can, I mean, I'm not gonna throw out any names, but you can almost, if you can tell a great story and be great on the mic, or have somebody speaking for you, you can almost kind of cover that a little bit until all bets are off.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is noticeable, right, that the women just don't, I mean, again, it's like Britt Baker and whoever's with Britt Baker at the moment, and then
Hmm.
everybody else can maybe get something going on Dark or whatever.
Yeah, and
Like
Jade's getting a big push too. So
Jade is.
yeah.
But I love Jade. I do worry because I don't know I don't know if she's in ring ready for that spot. I don't know. I haven't seen her wrestle that much. That's the only problem I have.
That's the thing. So it's like I think if she were to get the belt, you're not going to see her wrestling that much. However, on a mainstream media thing, she has the look.
I agree.
Like,
I
you could
agree.
see her anywhere, and I think that's what it's one of those things where you use it to your advantage, because beyond the wrestling universe, there's a whole nother universe that people want to tap into. So I think Bianca Belair was on the late night show, so was Becky. So it's like you want to tap into those because now people might tune in or they might at least know. Like remember there's a time that, and this is like a totally different reference, but at a time everybody knew who the UFC Women's Champion was Ronda Rousey, and you didn't have to watch. You didn't have to watch the matches, right? And I think the same thing when people think of wrestling and they don't watch wrestling, they're still gonna like think back to Hulk Hogan or The Rock. There's certain names that pop, and I think AEW and WWE are both kind of trying to put those names out there. So at least it's like, okay, there's this person's related to this company, therefore you can speak on it.
Well, I want to, before we get to our next note about the releases here, I'll throw up a comment because I've been neglectful of the section here. The stellar Justin Lopez saying, TK's right about the bad relationship. I'm here trying to sell my tickets for both Survivor Series and Raw. No reason to invest when they're cutting people like this. Yeah, I wonder when does critical mass happen? When the fans just reject I don't know, because like the people that are upset and selling tickets and things like that, I genuinely don't think WWE, I don't know that they care. I think they're like,
No.
go watch AEW. If you want your kids to come to Barnum and Bailey's Pro Wrestling Circus, we're going to be in town. I think that's the attitude towards the situation.
WWE does not care about your feelings. And they also, for all the times, and this is, I don't want to get political, but there was a time we had a president, everybody said they were moving to Canada. And being from Canada, I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. And that happened, and nobody moved to Canada. So, it's just one of those things where it's like everybody says that they're going to do this, and then, nothing happens. So it's one of the moments that if you're going to, and if you want to sell your tickets, now you multiply that by more people, then yes, that will make an impact. But one person or 20 people or 200 people or even 2,000 people is not necessarily going to make a dent. So, I don't know if there has to be like a coalition to start, but
I do. I think I don't know about people getting upset about the releases, but I can see people tuning in, getting attached to wrestlers, and then having no idea where they go. Right? Like I think there's a fair amount of people that probably really liked Hit Row. I mean, Hit Row's really entertaining act, and I definitely think that there's a underrepresented community watching the show that probably were like, wow, this is authentic rap group here. This isn't some kind of PN News WCW thing, right?
Yeah.
I at least that's the vibe I was getting. So, but when they go back to the show and Hit Row's not there and they're not reading the sheets and they're just casual fans, but that's gone and they like that, then I think that is where you risk losing people. You know what I mean?
Right. And the thing too is, why were they called up? So if it was true that, Triple H is down, well, it's true that Triple H is down, but Vince and Bruce went into NXT, they were already called up. So, for you to be called up, that means that, they see something in you. Like, at least for a moment, they were called up for like less than 3 months. So what was the reasoning behind that? And then why, why get rid of one member and then 4 weeks later get rid of the rest? Like, I'm not saying that they all should have got fired, but I mean, it would have just been better if they all just got fired at the same time.
I don't know why they got fired, TK. I really liked Hit Row Records. And the thing about Top Dollar was he went out and, like, I don't know what this heat is backstage. I'm sure we're going to get more stories about this, and he'll do an interview, I'm sure, in the next, 90 days. But, like, the thing about Top Dollar was he was the only person that went up against AEW and made WWE look cool. He won that sneaker war with the Young Bucks. No doubt about it. And, like, if you've got a guy that can, like, what are you doing? Like, this is one of the few people that actually made your brand look cool for a moment. I don't get it. It's very odd.
I don't. It's and then it's like that's the prototype that Vince likes. So I kind of feel like they might not all come back, but some of the members will come back. It won't be the same though. But what are we gonna do? Like it's I don't know. It's I think quote me if I'm wrong. Like WWE used to do releases twice a year. It was like after WrestleMania and then like another time. And now it's just getting to be like too much. Like it's stressful. One of the companies that I was working for, they used to fire people on Fridays. Like people on every Friday used to get fired.
Oh,
So it's
great.
stressful because yeah, because you just don't know, like, hey, am I gonna make it this week or not? Like, even though you did a good job. So it's on just on that mental level. It's just like, okay, well, WrestleMania comes. Some people might you might be bracing yourself because you just don't know. But now you just never know. Like one day you wake up and you find, at least I think everybody got a phone call. But I remember some days, I know some wrestlers, they just found out on Twitter, like, which is
Yeah, did you see the Xavier Woods finding out on G4 video? Have you seen that?
no,
Oh,
no.
so they're doing like so G4. It's like they're doing like a live stream in between segments of the studio online, right? So
Yeah.
it's muted. All the hosts are just kind of hanging out, getting ready for the next segment.
Mhm.
And Woods is on his phone and he's just hanging. He's hanging. He goes, oh, oh, and he like stands up. He's like, I have to go. And his co-hosts all look really scared. They're like, what's going on? He's like, I have to leave. And he leaves the set, and the co-hosts are all left being like, what just happened? And like you can like go watch his reaction in real
Oh,
time.
wow.
It was wild. It was wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, I don't I don't know. It's sad. I just think the timing, and like I said before, there's no perfect timing, but the timing is. And then to bring like, do you think John Morrison was fired because the Miz was like away because they had beef and he was doing the Dancing with the Stars thing? Like, there's just so many questions.
That is a great question. I had not thought about Miz, but Miz got eliminated from Dancing with the Stars. I know I watch every week, but whatever. I thought he was going to be back in the fold, and they were going to reignite the Morrison Miz stuff. I thought we were like 2 weeks away from that.
Right. So then it's just like,
Yeah.
what happened? Like, I don't.
I think there's a lot of people asking that today, TK. So,
What?
all right. Well, last release item. We got a couple more items here, and then we'll dive into the mailbag, and you can listen to Dante and all that. But Drake Maverick stole the moment yesterday. He got released. He releases this like 4-minute video. It starts with him crying and reacting to the release, and it goes to Scramble Vision, and then boom! All of a sudden, he's there being confronted by himself, giving himself a pep talk, reminding him he's going to be fine and ending with him getting a call, and he's excited. He leaves. John Cena sees this video and he praises Drake. He calls him a gifted performer. I don't know what the future holds for Drake, but this was a hell of a way to go out. I was very impressed. You know,
When did he have the time to do that? Like, it's kind of like there's that, because no matter what, even if you expect it or don't expect it, getting fired from a job is just never a good feeling unless you planned it, or unless, like, you knew it was coming. But it's just kind of like you go through the stages of almost death, right? So it's just kind of like he got the phone call. So when did he figure it was coming anyway? So he's already prepping himself. Like, it was just kind of like, and it was great. It's one of those things that's the ultimate pep talk video when something goes awry in your life. Like, you will live to see another day. It's okay. And, versus, staying in bed for 3 months, you might stay in bed for 3 days. Like, it's one of those things. Like, the video is great. It was like, when did you have the time to think of that? Like,
well,
that's not just a small video.
Bad Keith, you're saying Drake had to make that video way before this happened. I mean, he expected it to happen, right? And Chaz Shaw agreeing, it had to be prepared. Yeah, the Observer newsletter came out today, and they actually had a bunch of little notes about this. And I guess Drake was like on the chopping block to be fired a couple weeks ago when they did the last round of releases, but then was saved for whatever reason. But this time, like, I guess your old bosses are running the show at WWE. They're like, not this Friday, buddy. So I think he knew he was at risk, and to cover his own ass, like, wanted to have something to immediately get out there, capitalize on this moment. I mean, it is incredible to me how this generation of wrestlers, and Moxley started it with the Prison Escape video.
Hmm.
Everybody, like, that's the thing now. You can there's some kind of performance piece, video piece that sets the tone, and he got it out faster than anybody's ever done it, and it's just great. I don't know. So
Yeah, it is. But it's like making a statement without being allowed to make a statement. Like, I don't know. Kudos. It is great. It's a great video. But I agree. He probably did know. Sometimes, with certain jobs, you're like, The time is near. I don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. Let me
Well,
slowly pack the stuff from my desk and just have a few things left, the one picture of my family or something.
I gotta feel like, again, when Triple H leaves, they're looking to do NXT 2.0. Vince has a very specific type. Over 30 and Drake size, not gonna work, right? Not for Vince. And I think that I think you're probably right. I think he probably had an inkling, but that's why he put this video together to cover his own ass when he did it.
Right.
It looked like the work of EC3. I'll just put it out there.
And
So
now, when Triple H comes back, what is that? I mean, obviously it's health. He's dealing with his health first. But when he's back to being, Triple H, what is that conversation like? It's like you leave your house in a certain condition and you expect it to be the same when you come back, but instead you come back and somebody redecorates the whole thing. And it might work, it might not work, but it's just like, hey, this is my house though. Like why
I don't know that he knew the house was going to be the same when he came back, or maybe even before he left.
mm,
I was actually at the WWE Performance Center tryout camp they did in Las Vegas, where they took over
mhm,
like a huge ballroom and they dropped 3 rings in it, and they let me and a dozen other press people in, and we got to watch these guys run, women and men run these drills and all of
mhm.
that stuff. And then Hunter got to come in, and this was the last scrum he's done, to the best of my knowledge. I don't think he's given any public statements since this scrum. And he comes out and he says, 95% of the people here have never been in a wrestling ring, And so my question to him was, so are you not hiring indie wrestlers now? Like, has that totally changed? Right. And, he kind of danced around it and all that. But he even knew that the direction was changing, right? It was obvious. Like his style,
Yeah.
like we were talking about, it's like he knew that his time of getting top indie guys who are passionate about the business and want to tell great stories, that's not the direction they were going.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely one of those things where you have to be trained the WWE way. It's like, one of those things. Like I've spoken to a couple of people who've been through, at the performance center, everything, did the training, and they just couldn't get their stories across. Like it was just like, okay, well, we're attaching this story to you, or we're attaching this story to you, versus the story that makes the most amount of sense with this person's character. And that's why sometimes it just doesn't work. Opposed to just getting somebody who's just fresh, who has no idea about the industry, just happy to be there, happy to collect the check, and then they can just ingrain the WWE, you know, training and how things are supposed to go, their way. So now you're not gonna get any pushback.
Yeah. MCAS here pointing out a topic I guess I'll bring up now. The Triple H is already back. He was touring the new WWE headquarters now. Yeah, he was a TikTok user, put up a video. Hunter, he's got a hard hat on. Vince has got a hard hat on. Steph's there. They're all touring the construction site of the new WWE headquarters. It was really the first time Hunter had been seen. Looked a little lean, but he's wearing a big suit. So, I don't really know exactly. He was on his feet. Looked like he was engaged. I don't know what Hunter's role looks like now. I'm as interested to see as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I did Waltman's podcast for a while there, and after Hunter went away from surgery, I remember Sean even on the air questioning, like, why go back, right? Like why try run NXT? Like you got so stressed out, and it became like,
Mm,
it became it's so much like why, like you're if like MCAS was saying here in his comment, right? Like, Hunter's probably not going to do anything. I mean, yeah, he's got kids, he's got a family. There's a lot of politics involved here. You're making tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. Why rock the boat, and why fight to do something that is just going to maybe stress you out, right? I don't know.
I guess so, but then it comes to a point where, what are you really passionate about? And, this is coming from somebody who doesn't have the millions of dollars, so it's probably like a different, perspective. But, the things that I'm passionate about, well, see, I don't have it. The things that I'm
Oh,
passionate about, I'm willing to put the work in.
this is what Hunter's passionate about, the Okada Bucks, right? That's what these are,
Well, I mean,
right?
yes, but then there has to be more. I feel like if you were just passionate about the money, then you would have just did, you just you would have got out of the business and did, finances or traded stocks or do stuff that is more passive. But you got in the trenches, you were in the trenches, and then it's just more about figuring out a way how to, still be in there. And if you're one of the top dogs, you figure out a way to not stress yourself out, like get an assistant or get some, like it just
Yeah.
don't give up entirely. That doesn't, to me, that just screams like I'm bowing out, but you're not like, 100 years old. Like it doesn't, I don't know. To me, it just screams, you're quitting.
Sure. Well, I love Justin Cruz's comment here. Triple H should go to AEW, and I do think about that sometimes. Like, hey, Adam, how is it over there? I'm creatively frustrated here. I don't think Vince gets me. Do you think I could get over there?
That would be awkward family functions, but I mean, I guess.
It'd be great. I don't think it'll happen, but
No.
I think about it too, Justin. So anyway, lastly here, before we get to Dante, and we'll dive in the mailbag real quick. The Observer saying Johnny Gargano has not signed a WWE contract as of this week. The company has apparently made a strong offer for a long period of time. He hasn't signed as of this recording, but the officials are pushing for him very hard to stay with the company. If you're in Gargano's shoes, what do you do here, TK?
I personally think they haven't been really giving him, like, it feels like he's been doing the same thing for a long time. And yes, that's kind of been it's secure, but if you're the type of person who's a creative, you want to be able to create things. And I don't think that they're allowing for him to be creative. So if he has an opportunity to go to somewhere else that's going to be paying him more, then why not? Like, and then we already seen WWE has what, 4 or 5 cuts this year. Like, you might be great now, but that doesn't mean that you're great. And even however long the contract is, that doesn't mean you can't get out of the contract. Like, there are so many people we can take, football players, basketball players. There's so many people who are on contract for X amount of years, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what, we'll just pay you out. You can go. Like, what do you say? I want to stay? Like, you can't. So nothing's really guaranteed. So for the time that you have while you're wrestling, go to somewhere where you can actually be creative and you could be happy. Like, we did an interview with Ruby Soho, and she was talking about her experience at WWE, and she wasn't saying anything negative, but she's like, right. And I could see it because when Ruby was on WWE, I couldn't see her personality. Like, it was like, okay, it's cool. When I see her at AEW and then actually got to like interview her and talk to her, I was like, oh, she's like really, like, I want to hang out with her. And I feel like people want to connect to wrestlers like that. And WWE is not necessarily letting them tell the stories for us to connect to them. So for Gargano, it's like, go where the money is and go where you're happy. And those two things make sense somewhere else, then that's where you need to go.
Well, thank you, TK, for joining me at the top of the show, talk all the news today. Thank you to AEW for letting me into the scrums to talk to Dante Martin. I had nothing to say, by the way, before the break after what you said about Gargano, because I would just be reaffirming everything you say, TK. I would have just been like, yes, 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 yes.
Retweet.
Yes, retweet, hashtag, smiley face, cry face. So let's dive into the mailbag. We've been talking the whole show about these releases. The big question here always is, who's going to go to AEW, the big competitor, right? Now, Tony Khan, he said in an interview, I think it was the PW Torch interview, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he does a lot of them, that he only takes 2 or 3 people from each release class. You know, this is a little smaller class. Is it because I call them classes?
Right? Yeah, it's insane. Like,
so anyway, so Tony's just a little smaller class than usual, right? So Tony usually picks 2 or 3. I'm going to guess maybe 1 or 2 from this class. So which of the latest WWE release talent would you like to see in AEW? Go to @WinkDaily, WINC Daily, if you want to vote in all of our polls. Even split here, about 420 votes. 41% John Morrison, 40.8% Isaiah Swerve Scott, only 12.9% for Drake, and 5.3% for everybody else. But an even split here between Morrison and Swerve. What do you make of that?
I could see Morrison more than Swerve. The problem, it's not a problem. I'll put it like this: when you have more diversity behind the scenes, it's easier to include diversity in front of the camera. And I would love to see Swerve there. I just don't think that they would do him justice because they're not doing diversity justice at this particular time. And WWE is the same thing. It's like, if you talk about women, like, women's storylines, like, I think they did sign two female writers. I don't know if they're still there. We just heard that they signed them. We haven't heard from them since. I don't know if you really can, but to me, it doesn't look like, they have much leverage. So it's just like when you give people behind the scenes, there's diversity behind the scenes, then you're gonna get those better storylines. So it's just, I don't think and I might be wrong. Please prove me wrong. Like, just
no, I completely hear what you're saying, and I 100% agree with you. But the drum beat for what you're saying is getting so loud, right? Like, I feel like week after week, it's becoming more noticeable, right? And with like Johnny Gargano, I didn't want to bring it up, but since you wanted to go here, it's the end of the week, and I've had a little beer. But like, if Johnny Gargano is sitting here debating WWE or AEW, and like AEW is a ticket to ride, like Johnny Gargano is probably gonna be safe over there, right? He's the same size, same look, same skill, same everything about everybody else who's working out right. Johnny Gargano is already AEW. Johnny Gargano fits that bill. I think a John Morrison and Taya combo could work. I don't know with John. Like, I think Christian was a good investment, but does John stand out in that space? I don't know. Like, I feel like some of the older performers don't like, kind of like what you're saying about other, women, people of color. They don't get as much. It's a young man's game over at AEW, unless your name's CM Punk or Bryan Danielson right now. You know.
And then and then that's the problem though. You're signing all these people, and it's no different to when WWE signed all these people. You're signing all these people, but there's not enough time. Like, technically there is enough time, but there's not enough time to tell a really great story, to invest in the story, to invest in everybody, all this other stuff. There's just really not enough time. So it's just kind of like, and the indie scene is pretty strong. And then also, let's not forget that Johnny, he's acting. Before he got signed to WWE, I remember seeing a billboard of him in Spanish all throughout Los Angeles. Like, I'm not in their pocketbooks. I know it sucks to lose money, because being on TV money, let me tell you, is a whole different beast. Like, those checks are really great. However, he's super creative. And I feel like he probably has stuff in the back that's kind of like waiting, like, movie ideas that he's wanted to do, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think that's our natural thing. It's like, you think, for instance, NXT, everybody who's in NXT, you think they're amazing. It's like, oh, when are they going to get called up? Now it's the same thing. When people get fired from WWE, it's like, oh, when they're going to AEW. It's like, let's let it breathe, because we might actually get what we wish for, and then their storylines are horrible, or you never see them. They get signed, but they never see them. The great thing with AEW is that you get signed and you can still go to different promotions. But yeah, I think we first need to work in the back end of wrestling first.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And it was great that Mark Henry got picked up there, but one man does not make an army, right? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. And, it is just one of those things. Like, I put Swerve on here. I didn't put Top Dollar on here because I knew Swerve would appeal more to people seeing him in that AEW space. Like, Swerve and Leo Rush working together, I mean, that would be a layup, right? Yeah. I think the idea of Top Dollar doing something with the Bucks, or maybe Top Dollar doing something with the Acclaimed, because, like, Tony Khan, when Tony Khan and the Bucks were taking fire, who'd they hide behind? The Acclaimed. They ran to Max Caster and said, please be our fire here, because we are water hoses,
I know, it's possible.
I think there's space for them there, but as far as like a consistent push and meaningful creative, I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we could name so many people, and then, like, let's not even talk about some of the women's matches. It's kind of like, how can you bring on Kiera Hogan and she has like a less than 3-minute match on her first match, and she's been on Impact forever? Like, that's a sore moment for me. So it's just kind of like, hopefully they get better. They're starting, we'll give them that, but there's more to be done.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, TK, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the show today. We went a little bit longer than usual, but it was Friday. We got some big news here, so we needed to flush this thing out. Come back on Monday. I will be once again joined by Michael Weissman. We're going to keep rolling out the AEW Full Gear media scrums. We're going to have Hangman Adam Page's Full Gear Media Scrum on Monday. Of course, supportwrestlinginc.com. We're on all the socials. And the Wrestling Inc. podcast is exactly like this, but at night after the big shows, including tonight after SmackDown and this Sunday night after Survivor Series. Check out both those shows. You can also subscribe to them wherever you find your podcast. TK, what do you want to put over here before we wrap up today?
You can find me on everything at TK Trinidad, but you can also go to Women's Wrestling Talk, which is WW Talk Pod. We have some great interviews. Our next interview is going to be on Fight TV with Mercedes Martinez. Amazing interview, so definitely go and check that out. We have a lot of articles. We have a lot of things where it's just dedicated to women's wrestling because, we ought to do it, period.
Hey, I love it. I think it's great, and it's like, women's wrestling talk, Effie's Big Gay Brunch, AJ Gray's For the Culture. There's a lot of seeds being planted right now by this generation, and I'm really excited by that. I think it's awesome. I'm at Nick_Hausman. I'm just a white guy. I'm on Twitter. I talk about wrestling. So
you need to put that and post that somewhere.
There's nothing special or unique about me. I have no special attributes.
You're special.
I guess.
You are loved by people.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will talk to you on Monday. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.